Let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the ninth movie and also continuing the fan fiction. Um, Last week I know we talked about the eighth movie and how I think that was the last movie that was like all right. I mean, I guess this one isn't that bad because I liked Mo, but but like, but in general, I feel like you know, eight is the last like movie that I like really, really, really enjoyed. I don't know because I wasn't a big fan of six or seven. I loved one through five. I wasn't a big fan of six or seven. I loved eight. Nine was okay. 10 was all right, but 11 through 14 is like no. And it's not the fact that 11 to 14 were like necessarily bad, but I wasn't a huge fan of like the animation style, and it felt too, especially 12, 13, and 14, uh, like 11 through 14 just felt, it just felt too new, if you know what I mean. It didn't give me the same feeling of um nostalgia that the original batch of movies, because I like to group them into like different like sets. Like we have one through four, which were like the golden era. Then we have five through then we have like five through nine that were like no then we had like five through nine, maybe 10, probably 10 that were like the second best, but it but still starting to go downhill. Except for five and eight. Five and eight were great, but and then we have 11 through 14, which, like I said, aren't bad in any way, but they're not like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think they were just they got it in their heads that they had to they were more worried about like making money than they were about um I'm making coffee, so if you hear anything. But they were like more worried about, making money than they were um than they were about, really caring about the fans. And unfortunately that comes with the territory of having a multi-billion-dollar company like Universal Studios. They unfortunately only care about the money and not really the fans. And I'm not saying that that wasn't the case when like two through whatever came out back in the 90s, but in the early 2000s. But now that we're in 2025, they typically care about other projects because obviously, there hasn't been a new Land Before Time movie come out since 2016, which part of me like misses it because I feel like there are so many adventures that they can go on. And also I really think it would be cool if they continued the series but made them older. It's kind of like it's like the same series, but it's like the next generation or whatever, like a next generation type of thing. I mean, the movies would still be like, okay, this is Land Before Time 15. It would be like Land Before Time, the next generation 1. It would have been Land Before Time 15, but it would be a continuation of the original series. Like it wouldn't be movie 1 again, it would still be movie 15, but they would like age up. They would start to like slowly age up. Like it wouldn't like happen like immediately. They wouldn't be like, here's Land Before 14. It wouldn't be like, here's LBT 14 where they're kids. Oh, here's LBT 15 where they're grown adults with 3 children apiece. Like, no. It would like slowly happen, but I feel like that would be like super, super cool. Um, oh, and by the way, I'm going to attempt to go over 45 minutes, but I'm going to make sure I have at least the summary and the talking out of the way. Um, because I think that's really, really important that we. And the only reason I'm saying that I might be able to go over 45 minutes is because when I was filming because I just recorded a true crime episode for my true crime podcast, which is called True Crime with Caleb Lane. If you ever wanted to tune in. We've been taking a hiatus for a while, but we're slowly starting to come back. And I actually have an episode filmed, but I don't want to come back to that podcast until I have at least. I'm not going to come back until I at least have 6 episodes recorded and ready to go. Just because, you know. But anyways, let's just. But anyways, yeah, I think that would be a good idea for like if they ever decided to revive the franchise and that would be cool as well because Andy McAfee and Arya Curzon could still play their characters, but I feel like adult Ducky would just be Arya's normal talking voice, you know, because she's still maybe a little bit high pitched, more high pitched than her normal speaking voice, but I feel like Ducky's adult voice wouldn't be as high pitched as, you know, I feel like would be more like, "Hi, I'm Ducky," and not, "Hi, I'm Ducky." I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not Arya Curzon. I cannot do the Ducky voice. But anyways, let's get into today's movie, which is Journey to Big Water. After a period of harsh rain, the Great Valley is partially flooded and covered in debris. Littlefoot tries to play with his friends, but they are preoccupied. Sarah and her mother Mother, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That was in poor taste, but I that was an accident. I'm sorry, y'all. Well, her father are removing a large log from their nesting area. Ducky and Spike are relocating their nest with their family, and Petrie has gotten a cold. A bored Littlefoot wishes for a brother, but eventually explores on his own and discovers a large area flooded by the rains. The adults advise their children to stay away, fearing that dangerous creatures from the outside may have been washed into the valley. However, Littlefoot returns and meets Mo, a playful young swimming dinosaur that had been caught in the floodwater. Littlefoot quickly strikes a friendship with Mo and describes him as his mud brother. His other friends also eventually befriend him. Mo explains that he is from the big water and he swam into the valley during the flooding. He confirmed that he is alone, but soon after a shark tooth attacks the group. Littlefoot requests help from the adults to help Mo return home, but they refuse, not wanting to risk leaving the valley to aid an outsider. A subsequent earthshake separates the children and Mo from the rest of the valley, but it also imprisons the Sharptooth in an underwater cavern. Unable to return, they decide to take Mo home on their own. The children follow a river that they believe leads to the ocean. A Diplodocus mother allows them to take refuge at her nest for the night, and the friends are present to witness the hatching of her offspring. The next day, Littlefoot and the others realize that they are near the ocean, as they have begun to taste salt in the water. Suddenly, the Sharptooth, who has escaped from the cave, attacks them that night. The land which surrounds the river is steep and slick with mud, and the children are unable to escape. Mo distracts the Sharptooth and lures it further down the river. Reappearing the next day, Mo explains that the Sharptooth had smelled the ocean in the distance and abandoned the chase, choosing to return to the sea. The children reach the ocean, but Mo is saddened to learn that his friends must depart. He wishes to remain with them, but the others explain that he cannot, and Littlefoot reminds Mo that the two will always be brothers. Mo reunites with his family and asks them for directions to the Smoky Mountains, as the children know how to find the valley from that location. Before leaving, Mo offers to show Littlefoot his home. Littlefoot accepts the offer and is amazed by the underwater world's beauty. Littlefoot and his friends say goodbye to Mo and return home, where they are greeted by the adults. So that's basically the synopsis for that movie. And like I said, it's a really, really, really good movie. But anyways, let's get into the fan fiction that we are reading. We are on chapter 17, Lies and Mistrust. After lunch was over, Petrie wanted to go out and find his friends to apologize for not meeting up with them before. After reassuring Toronto that he was just doing this to look normal so his friends would not grow suspicious, he took flight and began his search. He went to Watcher's Hill first, but of course he found nobody there. As he flew, he thought more about the lost souls. When he had woken up this morning, Everything had been perfectly normal. Now he found himself faced with a daunting mission. On one hand, he felt overwhelmed. However, he was also excited to be helping the lost souls, and he would be spending time with his uncle while doing so. Now, feeling more optimistic about his task, he turned his attention to finding his friends. He did not bother looking by their homes because he was sure they would have finished lunch by now. Had he known that they had all worked up a serious appetite while rescuing Ducky, he could have found them by now. After Littlefoot had eaten with his grandparents, he bade them goodbye and headed out for the cave Allie was using to sleep in. As he squeezed through the bushes, he saw Toronto flying with Rax and Ark over to the smoking mountain. He knew he would have to tell the others about the lost souls sooner or later, but he had already decided it could wait a day or two. When he reached the cave, Allie was there to greet him. Ready to go? He asked, running up to her. You bet, she replied, smiling. Before he was ready, she slapped him on the back with a cry of tag, then sprinted off to Waters Hill with Littlefoot in pursuit. Soon enough, Toronto reached the smoking mountain. He made his way inside with bated breath. If he had worked it all out correctly, then this would be the day when the lava would have completely receded, leaving the entrance open. He just hoped that Ark had been wrong about recent earthquakes causing the tunnel to cave in. As he turned the final corner, he gasped to see that his worst fear had been confirmed. The entire tunnel was filled with rocks. It would take forever to move them. Toronto let out a scream of rage. Once again, Littlefoot and his friends had unknowingly gained some time. Allie soon reached Watcher's Hill and paused to catch her breath. She could she could hear the bushes rustling as Littlefoot was trying to catch up and tag her back. She smiled to herself, quickly behind some quickly hid behind some rocks. After a few minutes, Littlefoot burst out of the forest, gasping for breath. All of a sudden, Petrie dropped out of the air like a speeding bullet, landing directly in front of the exhausted and now startled Longneck. Don't do that, Petrie, he cried. You almost stopped my heart beating. Allie came out of her hiding place, glad to finally see the flyer had appeared. Where were you this morning? She asked. Petrie gulped. He had never been much good at lying to his friends. Well, me was just, oh, me came here early morning to wait for friends, he began, after finally thinking of a reason. But me came too early, so friends never showed up, so me thought we would go and fly around and try again after lunch. Both Longnecks were slightly suspicious of Petrie's hesitation to answer, but they shrugged it off and they all started to play while they waited for Sarah to show up. Eventually she appeared, and Petrie had to once again explain why he had not been around in the morning. He had to explain again when Ducky and Spike arrived. What are you doing here, Ducky? Sarah asked, surprised to see her after what had happened at the sinking sands. Yeah, you should be at home resting, Allie said, concerned. That is all right, Ducky replied cheerfully. I am feeling much better. I am. Petrie was confused. What going on? He asked. Littlefoot explained to him, and he immediately felt guilty, as Ducky had been looking for him when she had fallen into the tar. Me so sorry, he cried. If me had been with friends earlier, this would not have happened. Everyone was slightly taken aback by his sudden outburst. After all, it had not been his fault that they had not been with him earlier, or so they thought. Do not worry, Petrie, Ducky assured him. I am okay. So there is nothing to be sorry about. There is not. Petrie was about to reply, but just then Toronto flew down from the mount sky, wanting Petrie to see the situation at the smoking mountain. Ah, there you are, Petrie. He greeted him. I am deeply sorry to interrupt, but there is something you must see. He gave a small wink to let Petrie know what this was about. Okay, Uncle, Petrie said, taking the hint. Me see you guys later. With that, he flew off with Toronto and headed off toward the smoking mountain. So it seemed that the three friends had been reunited for a total of 3 minutes. They continued to play, waiting for Petrie to return. During their games, Littlefoot pulled Allie aside. I don't think we can put this off any longer, he said. We have to tell them about the lost souls, and without Petrie here, this seems like the best time. You're right, Allie agreed. They need to know now, so they gather their friends together and build up their courage. What do you? Sarah asked, annoyed because she had been winning the game until Littlefoot and Allie had interrupted. Well, we kinda need to tell you guys something, Littlefoot began. All four flyers had arrived at the smoking mountain, and Toronto showed them what had happened to the lava tunnel. As you can see, our very worst fear had come to light, he said. It'll take us a long time to break through these walls, so we better get started. As they began to move rocks, Rax decided to have a word with Toronto in secret. You really think you can trust that nephew of yours? He asked. Toronto was surprised by this question. What makes you say that? Well, if you remember, he was against you during the Stone of Cold Fire incident, he replied. Toronto looked at his nephew, who was trying to shift some of the smaller rocks. Can I trust him? He wondered. So that's, this is getting like so, you know. Anyways, next chapter, setback. Allie now found herself faced with the challenge of trying to convince her friends of the truth about Toronto and the Lost Souls. Though Littlefoot would now be backing her up, and Petrie was not there to get worked up about accusations she made about his uncle, she did not feel very enthusiastic about the idea. The two Longnecks had stopped the game they had all been playing and prepared to break the news to them. We kind of need to tell you guys something, Littlefoot began. Well, spit it out already, Sarah snapped, slightly agitated by their hesitance. Ali took a deep breath and prepared to tell them. Do you guys remember what I told you about Toronto that night? When I returned to the valley, she asked. None of them had really thought about it since then, but they did recall parts of the story. Yeah, what about it? Sarah asked, still skeptical about the legend. Littlefoot cut in. You remember how you didn't believe it? He asked. They all nodded their heads. Well, I didn't believe it either. That is, until I overheard Toronto talking to some flyers about it. He paused to see their reactions. Both Sarah and Ducky were surprised. Spike had fallen asleep, but let Littlefoot continue. This doesn't prove whether the legend is real or not. But Toronto is dangerous. I've seen him hanging around the smoking mountain a lot. If he thinks the lost souls are nearby, things could get dangerous. You all remember what happened at Three Horn Peak. Neither Sarah nor Ducky could think of anything to say at first. Finally, Sarah spoke up. You're all crazy, she said, dismissively. None of it's real. The stone of cold fire wasn't real. So why should we believe this? Littlefoot sighed. Sarah was missing the point. The power doesn't have to be real, Ali said. One way or another, Toronto will go to any lengths to get to the cave, and that means he will hurt people if he has to. Just as he had done the time before, Sarah walked away, not wanting to hear anything else. Here we go again, Ali thought to herself. She and Littlefoot looked at Ducky. What do you? Littlefoot asked her. Well, I did not think Petrie's uncle could still be so mean the last time I heard it, Ducky began. But if you both say it is true, I do not know what to believe. No, no, no. Toronto didn't learn his lesson last time, Littlefoot said. He still believes magic is the only way for others to like him and respect him. But why? Asked Ducky. Some dinosaurs never learn, Ali replied simply. I guess I believe you, I do, she said. Littlefoot and Ali smiled at each other. It was good to have three on their side. Well, four if you counted Spike. Now the real challenge was convincing Sarah and Petrie. So now they gotta convince all these people that are like, especially like, they have to try to convince Sarah and um Petrie, but it's not going to be easy. Deep in the tunnels of the smoking mountain, the four fires were still trying to shift rocks. The cave-ins had been a lot worse than they had originally thought. As they worked, Toronto wondered to continue to ponder the loyalties of his nephew. The injustice that he should suspect his own flesh and blood was also working the hardest at shifting the rocks without any evidence was unthinkable. Neither Rax nor Art trusted him either and did not make an effort to be friendly than him. Petrie did not mind that much. He didn't really like them either. Toronto felt he needed to discuss the matter with Ark and Rax in private and called Petrie over to him. Maybe you should spend a little more time with your friends. Just allay any suspicions, my young nephew, he suggested, hoping this would keep him out of the way. Petrie agreed immediately. As happy as he was to be helping Toronto and doing something he thought was noble and worthwhile, he missed his friends deeply. As Petrie flew away, Toronto returned to his friends. I don't know how much longer we can keep him convinced. Although he does not suspect anything as of yet, we must double our efforts and bring down those walls. Rax and Arcs merely nodded in exhaustion. Toronto's bossiness was beginning to get them down. They went back to work, wondering if this slavery would ever end, and if they would ever reach the lost souls. For the next week, not much changed. Sarah still played with the others, despite not believing a word they said. Petrie spent more time with his friends, preventing the idea of betrayal from ever entering their minds. And Littlefoot, Allie, Ducky, and Spike came no closer to finding a way to stop Toronto. As their games went on, Littlefoot, Allie, and Ducky reflected on their biggest problems. They had no idea of how to get the lost souls. If they could only figure that out, they could end their problems right now. But, but right now, a new problem was to emerge. 7 days after Ducky had been convinced of the legend, Littlefoot awoke unnaturally early. The sun was still absent from the sky and would not yet appear for another hour or two. Rather than return to sleep, Littlefoot rose to his feet, stretched, and decided to take a walk while waiting for sunrise. Fairly soon he reached the mountainous region of the valley. While he walked through the rocky paths, he, by chance, happened to glance through a small hole in the great wall into the mysterious beyond. Though it was a land filled with dangers, just the sight of it was able to fill him with awe. As he looked down to the sandy deserts below, he noticed a herd of longnecks making their way toward the valley. As they came closer, his expression changed to one of horror as he recognized the leader of the herd. It was Allie's herd. They were approaching the valley, and her mother was at the front of the herd alongside the old one. Undoubtedly, Allie's mother had followed the trail of her wayward daughter here, and now the entire herd was coming to reclaim her. Littlefoot was shaken. When Allie had told him that she had left her herd to warn him about Toronto, he assumed she would stay in the valley forevermore. But now he would have to say goodbye to her. Again. Sadly, Littlefoot trudged back to his nest. Seeing the herd arrive had drained him of all his energy. How ironic that he should have been waiting all these years to see that one herd returned, but when it finally did, it was the last thing he wanted to see. He reached his nest and drifted off to sleep, deciding to tell Allie the good news later. He did not know how this quest of the lost souls would end, but he also thought Allie would be there with him when it did. He had hoped that one day they could have been mates and raised a family together, but that was no longer a possibility. There was one thing that Littlefoot did know for sure. He would miss Allie dearly. When sunrise took place, Allie awoke in her cave, ready to face another day. She wondered if there was going to be any development in their plan to stop Toronto today. But these thoughts were interrupted when a very downcast, though he tried not to show it, Littlefoot entered the cave to greet her. "Hey, Littlefoot," she said cheerfully, bouncing around with energy. "What do you want to do today?" Littlefoot smiled sadly. "What's wrong?" Allie asked, confused by her friend's silence. Littlefoot knew he had to tell her about the herd. She deserved to know, and if anything, he would have to be happy for her, seeing as she had never expected to see any of them again. "I've got good news," he said, trying to sound cheerful, yet failing miserably. "Well, what is it?" Allie asked, wondering what was taking him so long to spit it out. Littlefoot took a deep breath and put on a smile. "I was out walking earlier this morning, and I saw your herd," he said, struggling to get the words out. "They're coming to the valley for you." Allie's first reaction was one of happiness. Seeing the look of joy on her face depressed Littlefoot even more. Allie had not expected to see her herd again so quickly. After less than 2 weeks of staying in the same place, she would be able to migrate again. Then the full realization hit her. She would be leaving again, and who knows when she would see Littlefoot again. She tried to remain happy. "That's great," she said. "That's really great. Just make sure you take care of this whole lost souls thing, huh?" They both smiled sadly. "I'm going to miss you," she added. "I'll miss you too," Littlefoot replied. With that, they left the cave and made their way to their meeting place, where the herd would soon be arriving. All right, y'all, we're gonna stop there for today and go back and talk about um something that I've been wanting to talk to you about, and all of you probably know it, but if you don't, um, over on our Facebook group, Land Before Time Fan Club, we are going to be hosting um, a Land Before Time Fan Clubs Award that is going to be happening on November 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern, so 7 p.m. Central, um, 5 p.m. Pacific. Um, so, yeah, the nominations are up, voting is up, and it will be up until at least a couple hours before the show starts. Um, if you want to go and vote before it's too late, go go to our Facebook group, the Land Before Time Fan Club, and go to featured, click on featured, and the first pin post is going to say LBT Fan Awards voting. There's going to be a link to a Google Doc. Um, and so if you want to go vote and all that fine stuff, you definitely can. And also, the post behind it is a link to the first book in a new series that one of my team members has written and published. So if you want to like see that, that would be great as well. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Turns out it was less than 45 minutes, but I gotta charge up. So yeah. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.